universe is talking to us right now. You just gotta listen.
All right, guys, after the disaster in Indianapolis, 16-10, losing to a team we should have clearly beaten, this is not a good team. A team that misses its quarterback should still be able to beat a team like this. Look what Minnie's doing. You know the deal. Look, this Donald. Look at Tampa with Mayfield. Look at Green Bay. They lost Love. They pulled the game out. I mean, you can go to a whole list of teams that are built well, that are able to navigate the waters against lesser teams, especially without their starting quarterback. So we're on a fourth quarterback now, which is crazy. We weren't prepared with a backup quarterback. But even that, if you had everything that was proper, especially with all this draft capital, we're in the late part of our build, this should be a win no matter what, but it wasn't. And clearly the run game, McDaniel called up a nice run game. But the pass game was atrocious. Waddle, Hill, OBJ, 2 targets, no catches till late in the game. It was like a joke catch. Terrible. So I'm going to get into this pass game, focus on it. It's going to tie into things I've been talking about for a while. Look, McDaniel is a green. I said that when he first got hired. He's a green head coach. He was in the booth. He's not an OC. He was a run game coordinator. His personality was great for victory. He makes everybody feel good, happy-go-lucky. But I didn't know if he could handle it in the hard times. That's what I said when we first hired him. I liked the potential because he seemed like a smart guy. He came from a good system. But here we are in the hard times. And I did a podcast yesterday, and I said, you know, we fumble the game away. Let's just get rid of Greer. Most people agree that Greer's got to go. There's some still holdouts. I don't know. I don't get it at all. I guess everyone's got a right to an opinion. I just don't think it's a rational one. How many years? 20 years before we get it right? This guy has had multiple coaches, multiple builds, however you slice it, and we're now in another failure. So, but the one thing that some people were kind of up in the air about, and I get it to some extent, is McDaniel. And to be fair to McDaniel, if you hire a green head coach who's in the booth and a run game coordinator, the first thing you want to do is get an offensive line good enough to run that football because he's a run game coordinator. We didn't do that. And some people will say, well, it's to suit Tua because he can't do anything else. McDaniel because he's a fraud. Reality is we did not have the same system year 1 as we went into year 2 and then definitely year 3. I had talked about in the offseason of 21 that Tua had an elite trait. He's got no elite traits. I said, that release is elite. Look what he did in 2020 to survive to get that ball out. And anticipatory throwing. We all knew the anticipatory throwing. Not so many people were talking about the release back then. Clearly 21, we saw a little bit more of that. And McDaniel understood. They got Connor in, which I thought was a great move. We had Hunt. You go look, we got it out at 2.35 clean time. And the depth of target was huge. We caught teams with their pants down. His ability to throw quickly before guys can move. That ball gets out so quick they can't react. To throw it into pockets with the speed of Hill and Waddle. We set the league on fire until he got injured. But the league kind of caught up and started building that book on how to stop it. Year 2, we wanted to protect Tua, but we understood there were flaws. And we dropped the time to throw by like 0.20 seconds. It's tremendous. We were almost down to 2 seconds flat to throw the football. So this year even got quicker. And his reasons for that, I've talked about it. I've talked about how the defenses have played us. They understood. They feared the pocket post. They feared the deep ball. They feared the edge runs. And so what they did was rushed forward, didn't blitz, played high in the box in a nickel look, and played over coverage and keeping everything in front of them and making us be consistent. But when we'd have lots of penalties, we rack up lots of rush yards, but it didn't total out into points and consistency. We saw that in this Colts game. So I'm going to dig into cushions, separation, looks, All this to kind of show you what we've kind of seen in the past, but there is some even more bizarre stuff that I got to dig into. I really don't have all the answers, but I'm going to give you plenty of information to look over it. And to some extent, it kind of gives a little buffer to the McDaniel crowd. Clearly, he had 2 weeks to prepare. He should have had route combos with Waddle and Hill where they rub, where one guy does a post, one guy does an in, and you throw the ball on. I mean, you got to be able to dial that up. Even with Huntley, you should have had a mobile platform. You saw there was a couple plays where he had some nice plays where he'd move the football, he'd move on his platform, come back and drop the ball into the pocket. He needed that. We didn't get that. He did dial up the run. But I'm going to look a little bit into the run too and show you some stuff, okay? So that's the whole deal. Guys, I'm going to be back to the live on Friday. Get ready for this huge Arizona game. AFC East Shakedown will be on Saturday. Be on another channel. I'll post that here. Guys, I appreciate all you do. The likes, the subscribes, the comments, the views. I think I've done a good job at least being totally honest with you and consistent in my evals. But the likes, the subscribes, the comments, and views keeps me in the business through what I'm doing. And you guys have done a great job. But if you haven't subbed, please sub. Can you please like and put the comments? I love the comments. That really means the world to me. I'm trying to get back to it. Loads of comments in the last one. So anyway, guys, I want to give you a shout out and a shout out to Aceberg, my sponsor. Without the two of you, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, so there's multiple key moments. 22 seconds left. Our secondary let up enough yards for the field goal. People talked about Fangio. Well, Weaver did it too. But I believe it's more about our personnel rather than the coaches should get the blame. That was a big deal, 3 points. Obviously the fumble, and then the late field goal miss with like 4 or 5 minutes left. All these things, if we had stopped that field goal, didn't fumble the football, we would have still won without Tua. I think with Tua again, we would have blown them out. But good teams don't do this. But clearly they did something right. They won. They fumbled the ball. They had a terrible first half, but they pulled it all together. And our pass game with we got $30 million in Hill, $20 million in Waddle. Both are supposed to be studs. You bring in OBJ. You got Jonnu. What happened? So the first thing I want to understand is cushion. It's hard to find a cushion when you don't get enough catches, so we couldn't really find the cushion next-gen stats for anybody but Jonnu. They gave him 7.7 yards of cushion. But there's only one way you can give that much cushion to somebody, and it demands a certain style of defense. So look at this little graphic here, and you can see this is the average separation. Couldn't get the cushion, but the separation. League average is 2.97 yards. Average. Okay, so Beckham, far less than average, almost a full yard, 2.01. Smith, 3.1, but he's a running back. Waddle, 1.1 yards of separation. That's brutal. Hill, superstar, number 1, 2.88. Washington, 2.96, a little bit under, but it's close. But look at them. Grayson, 1.98, not good, around Beckham level. Pittman, 3.38, above, better than any of our guys. Downs, 3 yards. Pierce, 3.99 yards. And Mitchell, 2.79. They were able to get separation, but we couldn't. Why? Do they suck? Some people are saying Waddle and Hill aren't trying. I don't know about that. But if you look at our defensive looks and their defensive looks, it tells you something. It tells you what I was saying before the season started. I said it before. They rush, teams go, I'm rushing 4 guys. I'm going to put my linebackers in a nickel, 2 linebackers, all the way at the top of the box, about 5 yards. And most of what they're going to do is read and react and drop. And then I'm going to play 5 defensive backs. They're going to have 2 high guys, and everyone else is going to keep everything in front of them. And we're going to have to do that. When you do that, you can give 7.7 yards of cushion. When you sit without blitzing, we had 3 blitzes, and they had 15. That's not including the run blitzes. So whatever we did to them, they did just with their 4 all day. We loaded the box, blitzes 5 and 6 for a very healthy portion. But when you blitz and it gets picked up, it creates mismatches in the secondary, and then you can get separation because guys don't have as many guys behind them. There's not as much around there. You're playing more man. And so because they can do what they want to do with that 4 and play no blitz, they blitzed last week with the Patriots and it suffered. But when they don't blitz, it also allows the run game to be contained because you got guys behind. When they blitz up and you get behind them, there's one less guy and there's more space. And you get bigger plays in the pass game, but bigger plays in the run game. Jalen Wright, 6.6 yards per attempt. Yards after contact, 5. He had 1.6 yards before contact. That's not good. So he did the work, but they gave it to us. They said, run inside. We're taking away the outside run inside. If you force us to blitz and creep up and put points on, then maybe we'll change. They didn't. Achane, 5.3 yards on the day, 3.2 yards after contact, 2.10, a little better, but still not stellar. Mostert, 4.5, 2.25 after contact, 1.195. So, and you look it up, we had no big chunk plays. We had a couple of, I think there was one, but a lot of it was 19s and 20s. But all that stuff just kind of moved us forward, got to another drive, and then you would have a problem when you get off schedule with one bad run, one bad penalty. Look at what he had. He had drives that were 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 18, 3rd and 11. That's the only ones I recorded. That's 4 drives that are very difficult for a guy like Huntley. For a defense that is sitting in pass defense. Huntley obviously lacks anticipation. He's not Tua. I've kind of talked about that. It's clear. But we needed to do something to get him moving on his platform and create stuff underneath. If they're playing what they're playing and you run inside, and if you're not going to break them with the run game, you've got to add in a little bit of stuff on the edges in the pass game to force them to creep up and you mix it together. That's why in my pregame I said, we've got to run the football, but that pass game, we can't just run ourselves to victory. Okay? When you get to the red zone, all of a sudden, some of the things you're getting is not what you're getting. We managed to get that screen for a touchdown, but we couldn't just pound it really in there. And so our offense, because of the way they play us, allows us to move up and down the field, get some field goals, maybe get close, but never get a lot of points. That's why we're averaging 12 points a game. Now, if you look at the defense we played, we started out like what they had. 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and didn't blitz. But slowly that blitz picked up. Faster and faster. We brought more guys to the line of scrimmage because we had to get to them. And the offensive line was doing a good job with those secondary blockers. But what they played was a loose triangle. They did 4 linemen. They bring another guys to the edge. Their edge players, play a kick out wide. They bring the 3 linebackers in a triangle and maybe a 4th guy where they have a 4-man point, all off, 2 high safeties, 2 corners out wide, and everybody was reading, reacting, dropping. And we ended up running, if you look at what we called, where is it? We had 56 pass rush mitigation calls despite only being blitzed 3 times. That means we called play action 33.3% of the time, screen 16.7%, but we still had a 38.9 pressure grade. We still were pressured that many times. 18 passes, 7 were pressure. And only one of those pressures was quarterback driven. You can find that stat. Richardson, I forgot how many he had, but 3 were his. Huntley only had 1. So almost, you're getting a 40% pressure rate with all that pass rush mitigation and without blitzing. That's not conducive environment. It still should have been fixed. There was no slants. Like I said, there was no rubs, no route combinations. He had 2 weeks to figure this out. That they're playing what they're playing. Let's get something. Move that platform. Cut the field in half. Get some route combinations with Hill, Waddle, and John. Let's make this happen. Didn't. Why? Got to go to the tape. Got to look it over. And still, you're not going to know. But you know it's not good. This is, I think he's got 140 yards on the season. I mean, I forget what it was. It was some crazy number. Hill is having one of his worst seasons ever. And despite Tua not being here, it still should have had success. Waddle Hill. I talked about how they crunched the leverage up on Waddle and he's not able to break through. Some of that has to do with Huntley, but some of it doesn't because he wasn't doing it with Tua either. 3 blitzes by us. 15 on them, not including the run blitz. And when you don't run blitz and you get a good run, there's another guy back there who can chase and contain. So the problem is, I mean, you look, they talked about players being on the ground. I just wrote this down as a random thing. Eichenberg was on the ground 4 times. That's a pretty good game for him. One of them you could say maybe it was because he got a guy on the ground. I think it was like everybody trip type thing. Brewer pushed back 4 times on that fumble that Ingold had. People are going, why do you have a guy playing, I think, 0 over Brewer who can't handle power, and you run inside, he gets blown back, hits Ingold, he skips down the line. That was a bad call. And there's a lot of stuff to go back to McDaniel. Clearly, there's a lot of stuff going on that's wrong with this thing. I think it starts with Greer. I think the build could have been better, but he's the guy to navigate it all. He's the HC and he's the OC. And he's got Hill, Waddle, OBJ, Jonnu, HN, Jalen Wright, Mostert. His O-line is diminishing his menu. It's diminishing the easy aspects of it. But there still should be no discipline problems if he's the right guy. There still should be ways for him to figure things out. And he's not, guys. So he's not ready. He's a ways away. Because even if you gave him the offensive line, he still lacks certain creativity and adaptability on the field. He still lacks the ability to implement a discipline to this team. But clearly this past game, he was billed as a genius, and it has been terrible. Now maybe he comes in with Tua and things light up, but if not, that's bad news. So these defenses are designed to stop what we do best, and we can't run them out. And that's what I've been saying for a few years, dialing it in heavy midway through last year and even heavier before the season has started. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Curtis saying, be well, go Fins. Curtis out. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.